Hello and welcome to a weekend of words at the Ludlow Assembly Rooms 2017. And I'm really, really lucky to be here with the Reverend Kate Bottley, who you might have seen on your televisions in Gogglebox.
Yep.
And have we seen you in
You've seen me in MasterChef.
Yes. We've...
Mastermind.
Really?
Yep, I did that. The less said about that, the better, probably.
We'll move on then. So it's a great privilege to have you here, Kate, and thank you for coming all the way from a place near Sheffield, which was called...
Retford, but no one's ever heard of it, so we tend to say Sheffield.
Right. Is it far from Sheffield?
No, it's about 3/4 of an hour's drive, but it's a lovely little place. We enjoy living there very much.
It's a big place, Yorkshire, isn't it?
It's huge. Well, it's God's own county, isn't it? So
Yes.
Apparently, though, he comes on holiday here, so...
Only if you can find it. So it is God's own county, Kate, and you're coming here to talk to us today about a number of themes, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got all sorts of things that basically it's just an open therapy session for me, really, with lots of people just sat listening, hopefully. So the journey from being, jobbing vicar through to the media stuff that I'm doing now, and my big sort of crux of writing that I do, as well as writing for things like the Radio Times and columns and so on, is a weekly pause for thought for Radio 2, which sounds easy, 300 words, but honestly, it's the hardest thing I write. It'd be much easier to write an hour-long sermon, I think.
Never use 1 or 2 words when a couple of thousand will easily do.
And you've got to get those in a pause for thought on Radio 2. You know, you've got up to 8 million people listening to what you've got to say in 2 minutes, and you've got to do something that will make them want to pull over to the side of the road and stop and listen, something that will stop people in their tracks as they're rushing about in the morning rush hour. So it's a bit of a challenge. Because
you've got to have something to say that you think people are going to want to hear, haven't you? You weren't always involved with religion, were you? Do you want to tell us something about how you came to be more involved in religion?
Yeah, I didn't set out to be a vicar. I don't think anyone does, really. It's not a thing you go and talk to your careers advisor about. But I saw a book. I'm not from a religious family, even. I was christened as a baby, like lots of people are, but never taken to church. And I saw a boy at school that I liked the look of, and my friend told me that he was the vicar's son. And so I thought, I better get to church. So I went along to church to meet this handsome young man. And so I only went to church for a snog and ended up with a dog collar around my neck. It wasn't really what I had in mind. I married the guy, so that's good.
I think we have all seen him on the television.
You have all seen him. You may not have all heard him, but you have all seen him. He's a man of few words.
A kind of foil for your witty riposts.
He's the funny one in the relationship, but he's more economical with his words, I would say.
Not cut out to be a vicar, then?
Not at all. Mind you, I don't think I was either, So
apart from the relationship possibilities of going to church, there must have been something that kept you there after you managed to win the main prize.
Friendship and relationship is what kept me in church, because I think if anybody who's a theist says that they absolutely 100% believe in God every single moment of the day, then I don't believe them. Especially in what I do for a living, which has its really tricky moments. You know, sometimes we bury little boxes, and that makes you question some of the big things about life and existence. I think what kept me though is friendship and relationship is what has kept me there. And my faith defines everything I do and all the decisions I make, including going full time as a writer and broadcaster just over a year ago.
It's a terrific opportunity, isn't it?
Amazing. And, the attention span of the media is so short. They're like toddlers. So when you see that opportunity, you kind of have to grab it. Besides which...
Sorry, who are you?
Sorry, where am I? It's in my house. Besides which, you're a long time dead. And I do too many eulogies for people where all I have to say is they're like crosswords. I want my vicar at my funeral to make everybody settle down with the sandwiches for a good half an hour.
And maybe have a laugh as well, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. I think every good funeral should have tears and laughter, and quite a large glass of something cold.
In the course of being involved in vicaring, you do come across things which must make you want to shed tears, difficult things. How does that affect you and your faith? Does it make you question things? I know a lot of people do question things. How can bad things happen to good people and things like that?
Absolutely. I think you would be totally immune. You wouldn't be a human being if it didn't wobble your faith. And after all, it's called faith. It's not called sure. That's kind of the point of it, really, is that it wobbles, and I genuinely don't believe somebody who says they never wobble. Even people like the Archbishop of Canterbury, even Pope Francis has said at times it's hard to believe. And even Jesus on the cross said, my God, why have you forsaken me? So for me, I think we're in very good company. Excellent,
yeah. The people tend to regard religion as something that's slipping away, that it's going to be a thing of the past. You were in the Church of England, which everyone does know it's kind of struggles for congregations in certain areas. But would you say Christianity is a thing of the past? How can we? Do we need to keep it relevant? How is it relevant to a modern world where I've got the internet and I've got evolution and I've got science to tell me all the answers? How do you keep that relevant?
Well, for me, I see no sort of clash between science and religion. For me, science is about answering the how, and religion is more about the why. But I really struggle, with the word religion. I really trip over that one, because I wouldn't describe myself as a religious person. I would describe myself as a person of faith, because for me, religion is about it's about being boxed in, it's about rules, it's about regulations, whereas faith is much more about conversation and interpretation, and I'm much more interested in that, really, to be honest with you. Don't let religion put you off God. And I refuse to believe that England's lost its faith. It might not be religious anymore, but I still find that I'm stopped in the street to have conversations about the big questions of life. People still want to talk about those things. So we may not be religious anymore as a nation, but I certainly think we are still open to the conversation about faith and spirituality. And
another issue that a lot of people bring up when I talk to them about things like this is we're not a country that is Christian anymore per se, but we have a lot of religions within the country. We've got many Buddhists, many Sikhs, of course, many Muslims. How do you find that you relate to those people?
Well, I can honestly say that the faith diversity in Retford is not particularly broad, I'm afraid. But in my journey and my story, I've encountered lots of people of different faiths, and I've always learnt something from other people. And I think that's the big thing for me. When Jesus said, love your neighbour as yourself, he didn't say, accept them, or accept the ones that don't look like. That's not what he said. He said, love your neighbour as yourself. And in fact, told a story about people who weren't perceived to be close friends being made, the parable of the Good Samaritan is all about that. So for me, I see things we have in common rather than clashes that we have, really. In fact, recently I lost my faith for about 3 days, which was interesting. I stopped believing in God completely for 3 days. It was due to hill walking was what caused it to happen.
Yes, happened to the Prime Minister as well, I think.
It was just awful. I hated it with a passion. I was walking over the Pyrenees for a programme for BBC Two and completely stopped believing in God for 3 whole days. And an atheist brought me back to Jesus, which was a very interesting experience.
You've got to be careful about hill walking, because I think that's how we ended up with the last election, wasn't it?
It was just awful. Yeah. People do it for fun, I mean, that's just mad.
That's bonkers. I can't imagine anything worse.
And then they do this thing where you say to them, why do you want to walk up that? And they go, because it's there. So is your sofa. What's wrong with you?
So if... You've thrown me. If someone was coming to you saying... I'm
thinking of hill walking, I'd say, don't do it!
What instead, would you point them towards maybe a pew and say, take a pew and try this? How would you persuade somebody that the church, if not the mountains, was a good place to come and spend some time?
I think what's brilliant and amazing about the Church of England is the parish system. So every man, woman and child in England has got a parish church and a parish priest. Whether they know where that church is or know where that priest is or who that priest is, they've got someone. And often the parish churches are the best resourced spaces in communities. So I think it's up to communities to say, well, this sort of belongs to us. How are we going to get the best out of it? Because it's a little bit like rural post offices, rural pubs. If you don't use them, you lose them. So my favourite thing is when people say to me, well, I'm not religious, so I'm not going to come to church. And I always say, well, I'm not. If I was your French teacher and you already spoke French, what would be the point in you coming to my French lesson? So I'm not really interested in whether you're religious or not. What I'm interested in is a conversation and providing a space for that within a community.
Your enthusiasm is infectious.
And so is chicken pox.
So I'll come and hear your lecture. I'm really looking forward to it, but I will keep a a decent distance so that
Excellent.
they can't be infected.
You don't want to catch it.
No.
Don't catch that religion.
Actually,
You'll
I think
never shake it.
It is something I feel like I might want to catch. So we're looking forward to that. And thank you very much for coming to Ludlow.
Oh, I'm thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. I didn't know where Ludlow was on the map, so thank God for the sat-nav is what I say. But I did have an argument with her around a corner just up there.
Right.
Threw her against the car across the, across the bonnet.
I think it goes for most of Shropshire.
Yeah. Is that where I am?
Thank you.